time now.
There's a running joke in the IT field of the worse you are looking professionally, the better you are at your job. And that is actually holding up to be true based on my experience. Show up in flip-flops, cargo shorts, and a stinky shirt, you got the job because you're confident. Suit and tie, nope. Nope.
Welcome back to the Shankcast, everybody. Happy to have you listening. And if you're still on the feed, you're downloading the episodes, we appreciate you very much. This is not a normal episode. We are going to be kind of rebooting the podcast. I'm not going to go into details. If you're really curious about why Kevin and Megan are not on the show anymore, we did a whole video kind of explaining what happened this past May, so May 2020. If you go to the Essential Tennis YouTube channel, we kind of give the whole story about where they moved to, why they moved on, yada, yada, yada. And so we haven't done a Shankcast episode until today. And joining me are Matt Lemry and Mark Sanset. So guys, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So the reason why I love the Shankcast was it was a unique experience because we had three kind of lifetime career tennis coaches sitting down to talk about tennis, and none of them were currently employed at a tennis club, which you guys know puts severe limitations on how transparent you can be about what you actually think, because members
100%
and boards and everything else. So I thought it was just a really cool opportunity to unpack complicated issues in tennis related to everything and anything related to tennis, from people that have made it their career their entire lives. So Kevin and Megan moved on. It was really sad to see them go. Really enjoyed doing the show with them a lot. But here's Matt and Mark. So this is not going to be a normal episode. I just want to introduce Matt and Mark. And we'll start to my left since I'm left-handed. Matt, tell us a little bit about your background. What's your history in tennis? And we'll just kind of start with that. Maybe a 3, 4, 5 minute. What's your experience in tennis?
Definitely. So, ironically enough, Ian and I went to school together at Ferris State, and basically I've been in the rackets industry for all of my entire career, minus basically a year and a half. So I started off doing all at a athletic club basically, and then I went solely to the private club side, and I spent basically 15 years just doing private club stuff. So I was director of racket sports, director at a couple different clubs, and doing tennis and paddle. And also my wife, who went to school with you, her name's Suzanne, she's a director of racket sports as well. So basically I've been enthralled in tennis and platform tennis since 18 years old. And it was pretty unique to get out of the industry for a couple years, and then as of last June, joined you full-time at Essential Tennis. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into some topics and let the hair down a little bit, where usually you can't do that based on what you said. So it'll be, and to get the other unique perspectives on it as well. But so the journey has been in tennis, for most of my career.
The real question is, how long have you been growing that beard out? I'm sure people are very curious on that.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. I brought this up. We were doing commentary, Scott and I, and he asked me the same question. And so my last year when I was at my last club, I started growing a beard, and I'm like, I'm just going to let it go. And at that time, like when I started growing it, it was at the beginning of the summer, and we were going into paddle season, which you see like the members a lot, but it's a lot more chill. You don't have as many meetings, so your appearance can start to go a little bit, I'll say. So I had a pretty good one, and then I got out of the industry, and I joined my buddy's tech startup, and they just don't care what you look like in that world. But the funny thing was, I was telling Ian and Scott is when I decided I wanted to leave my current club, I had an interview at another club, and I went to that interview in a suit and tie with this big beard, and I went and interviewed at my buddy's tech startup in jeans and a button up, and I didn't get the director job, which I didn't really want it. But yeah, it's been going for now about 5 years. So I haven't trimmed it in about 6 months. So it's a little out of control right now. But it's pretty funny. My oldest is 7 and my youngest is 4. And I don't even think he would recognize me if I shaved it.
Yeah, it's one of those things with Ira too, who appears on this channel for Essential Tennis quite a bit. I saw one of the earlier episodes when he was featured in, and he didn't have a beard like
shocking.
5 years ago. I'm like, who is this guy? Yeah. So it's probably going to be the exact same thing, especially for your kids because they see you every single day with that Gandalf-like red bush under your chin. So
it's going to be traumatic when it happens.
It is. And so it was funny. We were playing. It was actually a paddle match, but one guy said, "How much to play a match where I'll put up money and you put up the beard?" I'm like, you got to fork over some dough on that. This is, and I get to pick my partner, but yeah, it's been going for a long time now.
There's a running joke in the IT field of the worse you are looking professionally, the better you are at your job, and that is actually holding up to be true based on my experience. Show up in flip-flops, cargo shorts, and a stinky shirt, you got the job because you're confident. Suit and tie, nope.
Not a good fit.
I love it.
All right, Mark, tell us your background in tennis.
Yeah, so started playing tennis when I was, I think, 3rd grade. How old is that? 9. And then kind of went through the motions. I was a relatively talented junior, but I burned out because of I didn't have the mental capability. I still don't to this day. And then I went to Whitewater for 4 years, played on the team for 2 years, and then started playing tennis a little bit more intensely in my early 20s and been plugging away ever since. I teach and coach part-time privately, and I'm a software developer full-time and doing YouTube stuff as well and stuff like this along with Ian at Essential Tennis, which I'm very grateful for the exposure, and just looking to grind it out and see what I can do on the internet.
Awesome. Well, I'm not going to take up any time talking. We're just going to go around one more time, and I want to ask you guys, what is your... My wife and I do this sometimes, highs and lows. Like thinking back across your tennis experience, what is your peak, like highest high in the sport of tennis, and what is your lowest low in the sport of tennis in terms of your personal experience? It could be as a coach, it could be as a player, it could be as a fan, like anything related to tennis. What's like the first thing that comes to mind when I ask for like your highest and your lowest points? Mark, we'll start with you.
Sure. That's a good one. So highest high was, I believe, between my freshman and sophomore year in college when I was training a lot. And that's when I improved. And funny enough, it's when I switched from a two-handed backhand to a one-handed backhand, but more on that later. I beat a Division I scholarship player that was in the lineup, and that was awesome. I believe the gentleman was at Western Illinois. Not the highest Division I school, but still a scholarship player nonetheless. That was fantastic. And I guess my lowest low in tennis was I was thinking about quitting. I believe, how old was I? I believe I was a junior in high school. And, not anything like super dark, but it was just one of those things where I was burning out. I was losing to kids that I didn't think I should have lost to, but obviously they won fair and square.
So classic. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that,
it's a universal frustration. It happens to everybody.
Exactly. And you have, you've got other things in your mind when you're a junior in high school.
Sure.
You got all these hormones raging through you. You got social statuses that you worry about, which actually doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Right.
But, I guess that was my lowest low at that moment. And I'm glad I still kept playing tennis because looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, why would you quit? But as you said, everybody kind of has gone through that. So, for a low, that's not too bad, I guess. But just got to keep going at it.
Absolutely. Matt?
Yeah, so lowest low I actually have, when I was a junior, I was starting to gain a little traction, and I grew up in the UP, so there's like no tennis there. But I actually started playing a little bit more in Wisconsin and at Green Bay and things like that. So I actually started to, get pretty good. And I come out the 2 seed. I have like a couple friends coming to watch. I can't remember if I was like 14s or 16s. And I'm playing this kid. I got rolled like 0-0. And I mean,
I remember experiences like
yeah,
that.
and I was just like, I was riding this high of
Yeah.
like, hey, I broke through, and like people are actually starting to notice like
Now
who
I'm
I
good.
was. Yeah, and that like put a huge, but I kind of recovered back. I played well in high school and all that good stuff, but kind of culminating that, growing up in the UP, it's like we're in our own little world, basically. And when I got to Ferris, I was 100% sure I was going to walk onto the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, I'm a really good player, and I'm just going to walk on. And I saw some of the guys hit that were on the team, and I was like, yeah, they're good. They're better than me, but I'm still very confident. And then when I saw the level of the walk-on tournament, I was like, I am not making this team. And it was a gut punch to kind of like put me in perspective of where I really was. But I worked pretty hard on the game. But I think on the other side of the game, like the high part was, I definitely think I could have played college tennis at a different school. I couldn't have played at Ferris. It was just above my pay grade. But when I started being a coach and a director, you'd get young kids coming in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was teaching at a couple different clubs, either I hired interns from different schools and I would play them and I would dust them. And I'm like, you play college tennis. So it kind of like brought me back up a little bit. Like, hey, I'm actually maybe not, I'm somewhere in that middle. So with that, and I think the high on the professional coaching side for me is just, it was fun to take one of the programs I started from scratch to building it. That was really cool. And for me, I've always liked like mentorship stuff. So 3 of my assistants eventually went on to become directors. So that was a big one to me for like coaching them and getting to that next stage. I don't know if I really had like a low of the low professionally. I think in the rackets industry overall, I was just burnt out about it. Everything kind of just pissed me off. Like even if it shouldn't, it just drove me nuts. And the little things started bothering me. So I think it was just, kind of doing the same thing for that long, and it was a little monotonous. So.
Well, how many hours were you working as a tennis director for these clubs? It has to be 45 plus.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, so the on-court part wasn't terrible. Like typically when you get to be that director, you're not teaching a lot. Like maybe I was on the court 15, 20 hours, but I mean the admin, I was probably putting in another 35 plus.
You got the member maintenance.
Yeah, and you're always on, and that's
Even at the grocery store.
Exactly. And that's the crazy thing is when I came into the industry, we came in basically the same year, right, into the industry. And, 2003, 2004, people were starting to email a lot, where it used to be people just showed up. And when you left the club, like nobody could get a hold of you. There was no way to do it. But now everything is text message and email and everything. Like you just can't escape anything anymore.
Isn't that amazing that technology affects any type of sports industry and industry in general? We're like, oh, wow, now I have my phone by my side. I can never leave my work, theoretically speaking.
Right.
Yeah, service industry in particular.
Yeah.
Your clients can get a hold of you 24 hours a day. It's a rough thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good to get to know you guys, Matt and Mark. I just wanted to break the ice a little bit and let all of you who have been on the stream on the feed for quite some time now, let you know who the new hosts are. I'm really happy to have them and looking forward to diving right back into different topics about tennis. So thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. And we're going to get right down to recording episode number 25.
Let's do it.